Pupco Studios in Oklahoma City. You're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. We are brought to you by Papa John's Pizza. You can go online anytime and order your pizza at papajohns.com. Barry, it's time for 5 and 5. We've got 5 topics, about a minute each for those 5 minutes. Let's get started with this. What's the percentage chance that Reggie Jackson is in Oklahoma City next season?
I'm unsure of the number, but I know this. I think it's declining more every day. I'm starting to get the message, Reggie Jackson. You don't want to be here. I mean, every comment you make talks about, while I'm here. And this is not, commanding this team, the depleted roster without Russell Westbrook. That's not what I had in mind. I'm starting to understand that you don't want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, you don't need to be here. So I'm thinking more and more that it's possible that the Thunder engineers a trade for Reggie Jackson. Whether a sign and trade in the summer or something before the deadline. So I'm getting down into the 50-50 range.
Yeah, I would have, and I was positive that Reggie Jackson was going to be a member of the Thunder next year, right up until he came back and started talking about while I'm here. I mean, that sort of verbiage is. I don't think it's just something that he's saying to try to get a better deal, because here's the truth. I think the Thunder's made it pretty obvious to Reggie Jackson and his people that they want him here, and they're willing to pay for him, even in a market that's seeing his value go up and up and up. If you look at what happened this offseason with guys who are similar to Reggie Jackson, the pay that he's going to be able to command is going to be off the charts and probably higher than the Thunder would really like to pay. And yet I think they're willing to pay it because they like what Reggie Jackson brings. They want him to be part of this team. But yet, if he's not going to be any more committed to being part of this team, which is weird because doesn't he want to raise the value of what he's doing as he heads into this offseason? It's bizarre the way he came back in Brooklyn and was so, I don't even know how to describe what he was, Barry.
He really just didn't. He didn't seem like he was in the flow of a team concept at all. It seemed like he was auditioning for future employers.
It was bizarre. Maybe he was auditioning for Broadway. I don't know. All right, Barry, a little more Thunder talk. What's your level of concern right now about Oklahoma City making the playoff? You don't need to put a percentage stance on it, but what's your level of concern?
I think it's low. Okay. My level of concern is low. I did the math last week. Even if the Thunder go 6-14 without Durant and Westbrook, when they come back, if they'll just play their normal standard level of play, which is over 700% winning percentage, I think the Thunder will be fine. Now, if when they come back they're slow to get out of the gate with Durant and Russell, well, let's say they go 5-15, and then Russell and Durant, it's a little bit slow in getting going, then the concern goes up. But for right now, low.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I still think that there's plenty of games when those guys come back, barring anything, setback, unexpected happening right now. I still think when they come back, this team will be not in great shape, but I think they can get there. I think they can be fine. It's going to be more difficult because you're talking about not having much home court advantage, if any, in the playoffs, and we know how big that is when you're talking about the Western Conference, so that becomes a concern. But I think at this point, with all of these injuries, every game it's somebody, Barry. It's really unbelievable at this point. If you're talking about that, you just got to talk about making the playoffs right now. I still think it's very doable, but obviously they're going to have to get after it once they get everybody back. All right, Barry, one more Thunder. What's the biggest carryover from these early games? It will be what?
I think that's an excellent question, and I think what it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good thing for some of these, the versatility of some of these guys. Nick Collison's been playing some small forward. Perry Jones played some backup point guard the other night. Yeah. Guys are out of their comfort zone, and to me, that's a good thing. They're expanding their worldview. Now, Nick Collison, he's sort of like me. He's just an old codger. He doesn't have a whole lot of tomorrows. He's got a lot more yesterdays than tomorrows. But a guy like Perry Jones, he's still developing as a player. That's a very good thing. If Jeremy Lamb can get back, same sort of thing would happen with Jeremy. So I think that's a good thing. They're getting out of their comfort level. They're going to expand their games in ways they necessarily weren't asked to. I think that will help when they get back with Russell and Kevin.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think if there's a couple guys that I think in terms of having the biggest carryover from these early games, there are two guys I think of in particular. One is Perry Jones. I mean, obviously now with his injury situation, I don't know how much he's going to be available, but if he is able to come back, if he's playing as Durant is still sidelined with the foot, then I think the carryover he gets from that opportunity to get out there and play, get in a flow, get some confidence, see what he needs to do to really compete at a high level every time up and down the court, to me, that'll be huge. But another guy that I think could have some serious carryover is Serge Ibaka. I mean, here's a guy that is essentially got a new starter, a second-year guy that he's got bringing along with him and Steven Adams, that leadership that he's been now sort of thrust into with Russell Westbrook hurt. I think we could really see Serge have some great carryover from having these games without Durant, without Westbrook, with Reggie kind of floating at some junctions. I think Serge could have some great carryover from these early games. All right, Barry, finish this sentence. I'd vote for. Now the election's just wrapped up, but I'm curious in sports. What change? What fad? What person? Who would you vote for if you had a chance in the sports world?
In the sports world, I would vote for an adjustment in the calendar. I would vote for basketball season to start later. I would vote for college basketball and the NBA to start around December 1st instead of around November 1st. Get away from football. Get away from the monster. Go head-to-head with the spring sports. Go to head-to-head with baseball. Don't go to head-to-head with the Steelers and the Ravens. Don't go to head-to-head with the Broncos and the Patriots. Go head-to-head with the Giants and the Dodgers. Your chance of a bigger piece of the market is much better. I think college basketball would be enhanced by being a one-semester sport, spring semester. I think the NBA would be enhanced by having more games away from November and all the football that dominates everything. Move the schedule back for the hoops.
Yeah, I'd love that too, and I was reminded of that World Series Game 7 when it's overlapping with all sorts of other stuff going on, including the NBA getting going. But I'll tell you what, I am all for, and this will never happen, but I would vote for it, is to cut back on the TV timeouts, some of the stoppages in play in football. And college football is our world, so I'll go with college football. But some of the lengths of these games, it's so wearing.
Fox is worse. Fox has the longest timeouts.
Oh my gosh. I can do a lot of stuff during TV timeouts. I mean, I haven't brought any sort of like reading material or, maybe I should take up knitting or something like that. There's time to do all sorts of stuff during the TV timeouts. All right, Barry, one more question. It's about Adrian Peterson. Did Adrian Peterson get adequate punishment?
I think the answer is yes. Because, I'm not saying the legal punishment is necessarily fitting, but I think the public punishment, the fact that his reputation is tarnished, the fact that a lot of fans now want nothing to do with him, the fact that his employer and his league is iffy on whether they even want him to play, I think that's adequate punishment. Punishment needs to exist in part so that people get the message. And I think Adrian Peterson has got the message. He did something wrong. Not always does that message get received. I think it did in this case.
Well, and that's actually where I hope that this plays out well. Now, when you talk about a 4-year-old getting switched by a massive all-pro NFL running back, is there adequate punishment? Did Adrian Peterson hurt the way that he hurt his son? I think that's debatable. But I do think that if Adrian Peterson and others, if this can lead to a discussion, if it can lead to change, if it can lead to change in Adrian Peterson, where he says, this is how I was raised, so this is how I am going to raise my kids. If there can be a change in him to say, wait a second, just because this was how my parents tried to get the message through to me, I'm not going to do that. And if other people are following suit, to me, that would make it adequate. But, did he hurt the same way his 4-year-old hurt? I'm not sure. But I do think if the message is received, like you said, then I think we can say that there was adequate punishment. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.